Hey everyone, so carrying on our series looking at Salehi's Six Stripes EP. We're going on to track 2 now, Full Circle. So this was, I think I said this in the first video, this was the first track that I started working on when me and Alex were talking. This was the track that he was working on at the time, and it was going to be the lead single for the EP. And so this was kind of the first thing I heard of this record. I'd heard his previous stuff. I'd had a go at remixing it and working on some stuff for him, but this was the first time that I got to start something from scratch, which was really exciting. This is still one of my favorite songs on the record. Having gone through the rest, this for me still comes up there. So a couple of things that I wanted to sort of point out on this track. I wanted just to talk you through how I got my lead vocal sound and how we built that up. The routing, I never know what way to say it, is a little complex, maybe slightly unnecessary, but we were really happy with the vocal sound that we managed to get in the end. So having a look on kind of the edit window here. So I use track stacks quite a lot just to keep my sessions tidy. Inside of this stack is everything to do with my lead vocal. So if we have a look at the lead vocal, and I'll just briefly explain how this is all working, and then we'll turn some stuff off and on, and you can hear how it all adds up to each other. So main vocal reduce and main vocal reduce 2 are identical channels. The reason there's 2 is there's just a couple of moments you can see here where the vocal just overlaps slightly. And so rather than spend the time trying to get a crossfade to work, just decided to duplicate the channel and send it through the same routing because they only cross over for just an instant. So main vocal reduce, if I just pull my mix window down here. So I have a limiter. So this was recorded on a USB mic and it didn't have a gain control on it. So Alex's voice, when he really goes for it, was basically hitting 0 dB and fortunately the mic has a built-in limiter. But I wanted to just know for myself that I'd put the tiniest bit of limiting in there to protect it on my end. And a gain plugin just to pull the volume back because of that. And then this channel EQ, 250 and 500 hertz are kind of very present room tones in the room that it was recorded in. So I dipped those out and then followed the harmonic series, kind of up the frequency range to further control those. And kind of standard, just removing unneeded low end. And then I go into a series of 4 DSs, all set quite subtly, all set at different frequencies, just so I can control, let's do it that way, just so I can control as much of the sibilance as possible. So if I just play a little section and you'll see those working.
More than entertainment, keep on raving till they came, and this is more than what they saying, but I keep on escalating. I've been doing this for 8.
So you can see just doing a tiny bit on each of them, and this one at 6,700 is doing kind of considerably more because of where sibilance sits in Alex's voice. Good old Waves tune, still good for something in 2020. Just on its kind of default setting, the only thing I adjusted on this for this particular track, which I'll try to find an example of it, is the natural vibrato setting. So instead of Waves tune trying to tune each of these notes, it just detects that there's a bit of vibrato and allows it to be what it is, basically. So from there, both of these channels go down to the main vocal sweeten channel, and this is kind of the heart of the vocal sound. So if I just swap to the mix window here, so main vocal sweeten, we add in an exciter, just again to add a bit more presence, not too much, we don't want to overdo it. Channel EQ now to continue removing things we don't want, but also to add in some things we do want. So I felt like the voice was a little thin sounding, so I boosted the low end and then boosted the high end for some nice presence. And again, 8,100 hertz, just trying to control a bit of sibilance that I hadn't managed to catch in the DSs. And then 2 compressors, one set to limit, basically 30-to-1 ratio, with kind of a low-ish threshold, and then a second one slightly higher threshold, still set to limit, and then a lower mix ratio on this one. So I will turn these off on the sweeten channel and the sends, and then I'll turn these plugins back on so you can hear the effect that channel is having.
Feeling certain this is not what they deserve, and I ain't got patience, not a surgeon. I'm contagious, not allergic. Feel like Annie at the start, so I had a flashback that's a raven pop. It's silly by your.
So if I turn those plugins back on now.
Feeling certain this is not what they deserve, and I ain't got patience, not a surgeon. I'm contagious, not allergic. Feel like Annie at the start, so I had a flashback that's a.
So quite subtle, but enough just to help lift it. So on this main vocal sweeten channel, two things happen. So the main vocal sweeten goes back to the lead vocal channel here in the track stack. And it also sends to these channels here. So I have a drive channel, a tuning, like a pitch channel, slightly flat and slightly sharp, and then a slapback echo as well. So if I just solo this vocal, and I'll add these elements in as we go. So I'll just double check where they are in the mix. Great, so from this kind of point they're in for the whole time. So let's just have a listen.
Taking up the progress cause we pulling back the curtains. Gotta make them feeling certain this is not what they deserve, and I ain't got patience, not a surgeon. I'm contagious, not allergic. Feel like Annie at the start, so I had a flashback that's a raven pop. It's silly fun, yo came, and this is more than entertainment. Keep on raving till they came, and this is more than what they saying, but I keep on escalating. I've been doing this for ages, man. This life is so frustrating. So I had a flash.
So you can see how each of those just adds a little bit to the overall sound. So this is just the Logic stock pitch shift, 100% mixed, 10 cents flat, and the same on the other side here, 10 cents sharp, and they're just ever so slightly panned to the left and the right. Slapback echo, just using Logic's sample delay, around 70 milliseconds. That comes and goes from song to song. Sometimes it's in there quite heavily, sometimes it's not in there at all. And then this really, this Abbey Road saturator appears kind of all over the album, or the all over the EP, whatever we're going to call it. Anyway, just found a setting, setting the EQ on 3K, the compounder, and the gain at kind of 60, and it cuts so much with so much ease, and so just had to blend it in subtly so it wasn't overdoing it. And that's how we got the vocal sound. So all of this sums back to the lead vocal channel, where I have another 3 compressors, kind of using the 1176 setting on Logic. And they're all at the same threshold setting, -15, so kind of relatively high. Ratio of 4:1, -15, 4:1. Yeah, -15, 4:1. And they're just there just to catch any slight volume peaks that jump above where we want them. So we'll just have a listen to how those are working.
Taking up the progress cause we pulling back the curtains. Gotta make them feeling certain this is not what they deserve, and I ain't got patience, not a surgeon. I'm contagious, not allergic. Feel like Annie at the start, so I had a flashback that's a raven pop. It's silly fun, yo came in this.
So each of them just doing a tiny bit of work to make sure the vocals just sit in that volume zone that we want. Another channel EQ, my default just has this low-end roll-off anyway, and then further presence added at 10K, and just a tiny boost around 4K, which is a little bit aggressive, but I felt like the vocal needed it just to help slot through. So I'll turn that EQ on and off, and you'll hopefully hear that difference.
Taking up the progress cause we pulling back the curtains. Gotta make them feeling certain this is not what they deserve, and I ain't got patience, not a surgeon. I'm contagious, not allergic. Feel.
And then finally, again, when I was coming to the end of the mixing process, I think I was on about track 5 of 6. I was possibly even onto the mastering process at this point, and I found a setting that I hadn't come across on the saturator, and it just worked brilliantly. So turning off the compounder, so it's not affecting any particular EQ areas. And then on the saturator, not using either of the analog models, but using it where it's just off, which I don't 100% know what it does, but you can still crank the gain on it, and it just adds that kind of sparkle and presence without any drive, and then using this blend control to kind of control the amount that's in there. So again, I'll solo this vocal and I'll turn this on and off, and hopefully you'll hear a difference. And if not, I will kind of turn this blend up and down so you can hear what this is doing.
Picking up the progress cause we pulling back the curtains. Gotta make them feeling certain this is not what they deserve. And I ain't got patience, not a surgeon. I'm contagious, not allergic. Feel like Annie at the start. So I had a flashback that's...
So it's just adding a load of presence and energy to the song. It just works really well. So this vocal sound took quite a while to find and to create. My first few attempts were okay. They cleaned up the vocal a lot, got rid of the things that we didn't like, but I wasn't really capturing that energy and that edge that you kind of need in this style of music, and that was some of Alex's feedback. So I just kept trying some things out, ended up stumbling across the Abbey Road plugin, which I have anyway, but hadn't really used that much since getting it. And it just worked really, really well for this. Really, really well. That was a bit weird. So yeah, I'm really pleased with that. And that actually made its way onto kind of nearly every other vocal, that final setting that I just found towards the end of the mix process. Loved it so much that, within reason, went and put it on nearly every vocal on the album and just blended it in subtly, and it just lifted everything. Cool. So that's, just a couple of things to show you on this song. Hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't already, go and check this out on Spotify. Track is Full Circle. Artist is Salehi. Come and join me on the next video where we'll be looking at the track No Saint.